the Vatican. As I look at all these friendly faces, if I could only hear your confessions, I'd have some movie, boy. But I made a little cheat sheet because this is very hard for me. I started broadcasting in 1955 with the Cardinals, so just do the math. And between that, I've done all kinds of stuff here. Oh, Lord, I've done wrestling shows. And never forget, one guy said to me, "Is wrestling for real?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Oh, you do?" I said, "Well, let me tell you something. I do a commercial every time the guy next to me tells me. I haven't missed a commercial in 3 years. Because as soon as they start bouncing around in there and I get real excited, the guy says, "Get ready." And then I hear 3 then, and it's over, and I do the commercial. So that was quite an experience to be with the wrestlers. And I did that, dog shows, game shows, and all that. But that's something else again. I'm not going to take up a lot of time. When I was a kid, and Yogi too for that matter, when we were growing up, we'd always say, "What do you want to be?" I said, "You know what I want to do? I want to do 3 things. I want to meet a pope. I want to sleep in the White House. And the last one, I'm not so sure I can remember it, but I wanted to go to the Hall of Fame." Well, after I saw some of those guys that are in the Hall of Fame, I said, "Well, Joe, the only way you go in the Hall of Fame is buy a ticket, pal. That's the only way you're going to get in." And then I did meet a pope, and I did meet a president, President Ford, and it's been a great ride. I think about I may not get through this, I'm telling you. Kirk, if I don't, you'll have to ad-lib it, will you? You'd be happy to. Tell your face you'd be happy to then. He never says it. I tell you, it's going to be a great year. It is because, you think, well, he's going to bunt. No, it's hit and run. I tell my wife he's going to hit and run, guaranteed. He'll bunt, whatever. It's going to be a great year. It's going to be a great year. Audrey and I have talked about it. We have been married 63 years. And I've often said, it's the best catch I ever made. I got traded a lot and did a lot of traveling as a TV guy. And when you stop to think about it, the wife is the one who really makes it for you. She was the one that took care of the kids. I was the guy that was on the plane, flying here, there, and everywhere, and coming home and telling her about it. And she'd just smile and say, "Oh, that's great," and all that. So 63 years, I want to spend more time with her. I've had a great ride. I told you about that. The only thing I'd like for you all to know is my health is okay. It's good. I had this big surgery in 2009. Came out with a walker. You remember that, Joe? 6 hours. But the guy who gets operated on, he doesn't know because he's out of it. And I came out with a walker, then a cane. Now I walk without it. I wobble a little bit. Guys think I'm drunk sometimes, but I'm not. And the only thing that gets me is they say, "Can you run?" I said, "Run? I couldn't run when I was playing, for crying out loud." I remember telling Big Kluszewski, I don't know if you remember Kluszewski, you used to cut the sleeves off here. I used to say, "Klu, hold your hands up high with the bat so I can look down and see your armpits somewhere." I mean, because he had those big arms. And I used to get on first base. He never held me on. I said, "Just hold me on so my kids see that you're holding me on. That's all. I'm not going to run." So that's pretty much it. I really appreciate everything that's happened to me. And Ken and Derek, you guys have been great. I'm going to say it. I don't deserve a lot of things that have happened to me, but I remember Jack Benny saying he had arthritis. He didn't deserve that either. So I'm taking it, and you guys were great. I mean, you've made me part of your family. And the Diamondbacks, I say this having been with a lot of organizations. I did games for the Padres, Angels, Cardinals, who else? Yankees. I did in '64. You guys don't remember '64. A crowd like this at Yankee Stadium is very small, I'll tell you that. But, you guys took me into the family and made me feel like I was part of it from the beginning, and I was, going back to Jerry Colangelo, and the biggest thrill I've had in my life so far is when Joe was GM and we won the Pennant and World Series, and Gonzo, where are you? Oh, you're staying away from the knuckleballer. I don't blame you. Oh, knuckleballers, I hate them. If you ever get to watch a knuckleballer pitch, don't look at his hands. Look at his face on delivery. Good luck. Sadistic. They're sadistic. You know what I'm talking about, Kurt, huh? And with 2 strikes, Except the only guy that ever did it was Jim Wilson was a little bit of a knuckleball pitcher, and Ted Williams was hitting, and he struck him out twice on knuckleballs. I just did reread an interview I'd done with Williams, and this is where he said it. And he said, when they got 2 strikes on you, they really throw that big one. He said he threw his best knuckleball. I turned around and I said to Charlie White, the catcher, Charlie, I'll handle this one, and hit it right in the seats. Boy, I would have loved to have done that. But anyhow, where the hell was I? Audrey and I talked about this, and again, I thank all of you, and I thank all you guys. I've had a lot of fun with you. Muscles is back there. A few people, if you got a little extra money, be sure to send him to camp. We need to get him built up a little bit. And it's just good to see all of you. I appreciate everything you said. I can't say his last name, McManaman. Hey, how do you say your name? McManaman. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still waiting for a call from the Pope after what you wrote. I'll tell you that. I mean, the new guy. I'm in for that job. Thank you for what you wrote, and thank you guys for being my friend, because everybody in the whole organization, and I'm not talking about just the guys I work like Scott or whatever, and this year should be a great one with Brenly and Steve. That'll be a good team. It will be. And I'll be able to sit there and second guess the living daylights out of you. You dummy. Not you. You got to make the decision. You put on a play and then you take 2 buffering. I know. But again, I thank you, Ken. That wall with the broadcasting, every time I walk by it, really, just something. I see my mom and Pop. And it's been great. And then the field and Flagstaff. I mean, come on. You got to die to get a field named after you. And you guys did it while I was still alive. So I just want to thank you for showing up. And I've never seen so many cameras since the numbers writer died in our neighborhood. But so I'm just going to stand here, and anybody wants pictures, I'll be around. But if you have any questions you want to ask me, I saw the movie Lincoln, and he had a cheat sheet just like this. Let's see, thank all of them. I did. But I mean all of them. I mean the vendors. What gives me a big kick is I'm living at what do they call it? Not assisted living. We're Yogi's in one of these places. What do they call it, Gonzo? You just saw Yogi. What? Retirement community. Yeah, except that you know what the most famous word in our place is? Huh? What? Huh? I had a guy come up. I got to tell you this one. You got to hear this one. This guy's from Detroit, and he just roots for the Tigers, and every time he sees he tells me the same story, okay? So now they're in the World Series, and he's talking to me about it, and then he finally says, I used to be a pitcher. I went to Michigan State. And I said, oh, yeah. He said, I was a left-hand pitcher, and I had a good curveball. And I was always telling him, I said, wait a minute. If you're a left-hand pitcher, use the other arm. You're confusing me. Oh, yeah. Left-hand pitcher and all that. So he said, Kluszewski once said, you know Kluszewski? I said, yeah, I played against him. He said, he once said that he hit the hardest ball in his life off me. I said, is that right? He said, yeah, that's what he said. I said, you know, he told me about that ball. Of course, I'm making this up. He said the hardest ball, the sound, he never heard a sound like that. It was really hard. He said, well, he hit it off me. He said he hit it so hard that when he went back to his hotel room, it was on the dresser. And you know he believed me? No, I did not call Yogi because Yogi's moved into one of these assisted living and retirement communities. And I said, how's it going, Yogi? He said, it's all right, but Jesus, they got a lot of old people here. I said, you're 88, what do you want? But he's doing pretty good. They honored him at bat, and Gonzo was there, and his son was there. I did a tape for him. I couldn't go because the doctor said don't travel, which is okay with me. I'm just looking to see if I missed anything. 3 things, Hall of Fame, the Pope, I got that all on. Dog show. I had a call from USA Today, and the guy said, how'd you ever get the dog show? A gig, he called it, you know. And so I told him, he said, you got to be kidding. I said, I really never applied for it. And if I told you guys, and I'll do it, but it takes too long, I'll wait for you to ask outside. And that's it. My health is okay. I really want to emphasize that because a lot of guys say, well, gee, many crickets, you know, you're up there, boy. I said, yeah, I know. I look at the birth certificate and I'm up there. And I had one guy who, he's all right, I think. But he asked me what kind of a hitter was Babe Ruth. You know what I told him? I said, I don't know because I didn't play against him. I only had one chance to play against Babe Ruth, and I had to go to an opera with a guy named Lincoln. Well, being at the ballpark, that's what I'm going to miss. And Kirk is gone now because he's got things to do. Talk to the players. Like I just was there with Gonzo and Miggy. We were talking and sticking a little needle in him and all that. You know, I said, you got this thin handle bat. You think you're Babe Ruth and that kind of stuff. I'll miss that because to me, baseball is the players. It has really changed. We didn't have a locker like the one you saw here. I couldn't believe it. Bats. I mean, I never forget at Pittsburgh when Kiner was the star, you'd say, hey, Byron, that was our clubhouse guy. I said, I need some bats. He said, you know what? Kiner just got a new bunch of bats he doesn't like. Why don't you try his? Maybe you'll like them. Hell, I could hardly lift them, you know, because you used to string telephone wires on the suckers. They were so heavy. But that's what you had to do. These guys, I see 27 bats here, and they got them painted and numbers. It's nice. It looks good. I once went in the Oakland clubhouse, and I counted a pair of shoes in the locker. I couldn't believe it. Would you believe this guy had 60 pair of shoes? We used to have 3. You see, 3, yeah. One you played with. One, if it rained, you took those off because you didn't want to mess them up. And then you had one you were breaking in, and you bought them. Now it's a whole different thing. You know that, don't you, Ken? Well, you have to talk to the players. I feel like it. Brentley does it. I know. Bob, do you remember when you were still playing and I came up to you and I said, hey, you're going to have a real good job in broadcasting because you get that great sense of humor and he talks, people talk. I mean, I can remember when I got traded to the Giants. This is the 4th team I'm traded to when there's only 8 in the league. And that told me that I was either wanted or modeling uniforms. I didn't know which, okay? And the great Stan Musial comes up to hit, and apparently he didn't see the papers. So he taps the plate, he looks at me, he backs out, he says, what the hell are you doing there? I said, I just got traded, Stan. He said, you did? When? This morning. He kind of looked stunned, and then he said, why don't you quit? You know what I said to him? Now? You know. But, oh, God, it was so... You have funny things happen. Managers, when they're on the bench, I tell you, they're a different breed. You know that. I mean, we're playing the Phillies, and Curt Simmons, if you remember him with the Phillies, was a herky-jerky left-hander. He threw nothing but elbows and fingernails at you, and pretty soon the ball came. And I was catching, and they never let me hit against a left-hand pitcher. And that's the thing I didn't quite understand, because when the minor leagues, that's what you did. That's how you played. But anyhow, Simmons is pitching, the bases are loaded, and Cavaretta says to me, "Go up there now, and if he wants to hit you, let him." If he wants to hit you, let him. Simmons, he'd stick a ball in your rib and stay there and chew out about 4,000 calories. But that's what managers did. They got involved, and those are kind of stories that I think people, they said, no, they didn't hear that kind of thing. I like pitcher stories because when you go on the mound, you never know what you're going to get. I had one guy, he'll have to remain nameless. And signs are so simple. You know that, Bob. These guys say, oh, yeah, he's got signals. He's using the second side. What? Fastball, curve, changeup, okay? That's my best side. Anyhow, this guy only had one pitch. He had a fastball, okay? So I put down fastball, curveball, I thought, well, he's shaking me around to make the hitter think what he thinks he's going to throw. So I put down fastball. I go out there. I said, what do you want to do? Someone throw him a slider. I said, you don't have a slider. That's why I'll get him out. He won't be looking for it. I mean, that guy really, and any of you guys know Johnny Klippstein or knew him? Johnny was really a good pitcher and high-strung guy. Dusty Rhodes was hitting in the Polo Grounds one day. You ask about stories. I used to write these down so I wouldn't forget. And, boy, it's good to see you out again. I'll tell you that, man. We prayed for you. You're a good one. Anyhow, Klippstein was pitching, and he calls me out. And he said, well, and he get all worked up. He said, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And Dusty was known to take a drink every now and then, by the way. I said, I don't care what you throw. Just don't hit him in the back pocket or we'll have Jack Daniels all over home plate. And I walked back to the home plate, and I'm behind the plate. He's looking at me. So I go out and say, what'd you say? I repeated the story. So I go back there. What did you say? I said, don't hit him in the ass because it'll get Jack Daniels all over home plate. Okay. But when he hits the ball, he's going to hit it right back to you. You throw it to me. I'll throw it to first, double play. I'll get 15 extra votes for the All-Star game. Do you know that's what happened? You should have seen. He said, how did you know that? How did I know what? But you try to break a mood. I know that's what you do, and that's what I did. Because knuckleball pitchers, forget about it. They're a lost cause. They only know one thing. High. You get two knuckleball pitchers shaking hands, you'll need a plumber to get them apart. The first job I had, I worked with Caray. There's an experience. But he was a great broadcaster in St. Louis. And he was the one that encouraged me. And then I graduated to working with guys like Curt Gowdy, Lindsey Nelson, Vince Scully. In fact, the guy today asking me about, I said, just name a guy and I'll tell you what I feel. He named Gowdy. I said, Gowdy had to have it right. He prepared himself, and that's what I learned from him. You can't just get up there and ad lib. I wish I'd said this line, but I read it somewhere. Most guys today, and I'm not being critical yet, but when some of them have nothing to say, and that's why I'm anxious to have the season start, you're going to get some good broadcasting. They will give you statistics, and statistics are, to a drunk, they're the same as a lamppost, something to lean on. When you don't know what to say, well, here in 1978, he hit 265 in Moorhead, Kentucky, and 4 home. Who really cares? And so baseball has changed, and the coverage has changed. The players have changed. No, I think this club is going to be interesting. I mean, he's got a lot of guys that would fool. What's my line? I mean, I don't know half of these guys. I can't wait to see him in action. But a guy like Kevin Towers and Ken and Derek, they made the decision. Now, if it turns out like they think it will, we all knew that, didn't we? But if it doesn't, then we put the heat on them. But, no, I love baseball the way it is. I'll paraphrase Will Rogers. I never saw a baseball game I didn't like. And my wife, God love her, we sit there and I'll say, what do you think, McGraw? Is he running? You think he's taken? And then we talk baseball, and that's the way it is. I mean, football is a great sport. I love it. But, my God, you got 11 guys here, 11 guys there. They're opposite each other. And I can't follow the ball. They can't either, or they'd be tackling all those guys. Basketball, I mean, it's just up and down and and that thing called time. I'll name this guy. You wanted a story. I'll give you one. Ron Nitschei was the kid who struck out 27 batters in the minor leagues. You can look this up. Had a great arm. I mean, he threw here, and he could throw curveballs from here, the ones we used to call a drop and a sidearm curveball. And Nitschei was a good pitcher, a good prospect. Hurt his arm, gone. We don't have him anymore. That's the only problem. The pitcher is a delicate instrument. I mean, like I've had guys say, baseball players, you guys get a little hangnail, you want a disabled list. I said, that's right, but we're smart enough to get in and out of the rain and snow, not you dummies. Chuck Tanner's gave me the secret to long marriage. It's like long managing. Chuck Tanner, when I was needling him one day, which I do all the time, as Muscles knows. And I said to Tanner, how come you don't have one of those big books? If Kirk was here, I'd say the same thing. He's always writing something down. What is he writing down? I don't know. I'd like to steal that book to see what he writes down. So I said to Tanner, where's your big book? Don't you have a big book? He said, no, I don't need one. I said, what do you mean you don't need one? You're not that smart. He said, I got everything I need in my back pocket. He pulls out a little Walmart tablet about that big. And he says, and this is good for your marriage. Be like an umpire. Have one ear, you don't hear everything. Have one eye, you don't see everything. And this is the important one. Put the seat down. That's pretty good, huh? How many of you guys agree with me, huh? Your wife said, put the seat down, will you? So, yeah. I think I'm done. You guys will be here all night long.